Hey everybody, welcome to What the Buck, the segment where we talk about money. I'm Andrew Hall. Joining me, Ben Nye, Matt Kresbach, Sam Frost down here. How's everybody doing?
Doing well.
Good.
Electric crowd. Off to a good start. Hopefully everybody had a good Thanksgiving. Let's talk a little bit about Black Friday. We don't see color here, but apparently Friday was a black one. Black Friday leading into Cyber Monday, all kinds of deals. Everybody gets real worked up. Any initial perceptions or headlines that have anybody real enthused about the economy or anything like that? Anything standing out?
Well, I don't know about the economy, but apparently Amazon conquered Cyber Monday, according to Bloomberg.
That's big.
Well, the numbers I was seeing was that Adobe had estimated that Amazon had in general, online sales were up about 16-17%, and everyone said, man, this was a great Black Friday. Retail sales doing really well. Consumer confidence this morning, we had 129, estimate was 126. Like, things are just doing really well. Actual in-store retail sales, any guesses? Down 1% year over year is what the estimate was. So, and then if online retailers did well again on the Monday, it does show that people are spending money, just not at Macy's.
Yeah, and it's still kind of a deceptively distorted statistic there versus in terms of what's in store versus online shopping. You know, I mean, if you read all the headlines, it's like, 99% of all retail happens on Amazon.
Amazon also said their best-selling product was the Echo Dot. Did you get one?
I did not. Is that the little one?
Yeah.
Nah.
Well,
I didn't get a big one either, but to be clear.
Here's the thing, too. Everyone was getting all excited about Walmart. Walmart stock did really well on Monday because they were saying, oh, well, people are spending money and things are doing really well.
They're trying to make an online mark.
The pricing was getting closer to Amazon. I'm like, this isn't exactly what is wrong. It means Walmart is cutting prices so that they can compete with Amazon, which means that's called margin degradation. When your operating margins, when your net margins are 4.4%, and you cut prices a little bit, and now your operating margin is 4.2%, that 20 basis point move results in a 5% decrease in your EPS, which is significant.
Did any of y'all read the Journal on, I believe it was either Thursday or Friday? And I'm going to completely butcher this. Nobody quote me on this.
This is going to be good.
There was a chart. I just saw the chart on the front, and the Journal, I guess it was the Journal, did a study showing, tracking a basket of, goods at Amazon, Walmart, Target, and one other. I don't remember who the fourth one was, showing who had the lowest prices. And as of today, Target and Walmart were like the lowest. Amazon was significantly higher than them, which is just interesting to me because Amazon's supposed to be, they get all this traction for having such low prices. And Walmart, like you said, Walmart and Target cutting prices way, way down. And part of that is Target's strategy. Their whole marketing thing this year has been, we have the low everyday prices. And for a while, people were thinking that Target didn't have low everyday prices, that you could go to Walmart and get lower, and Target was below them. And again, I don't know if that's a good thing, bad thing. But it was just interesting to me that Amazon wasn't the bottom.
Their prices really aren't that good. Like, if you compare anywhere else, it's really not that good.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I agree.
I bought a razor off Amazon on Cyber Monday, so.
Yeah, did any of y'all make any Cyber Monday purchases?
That was it, a razor.
A razor?
No, not Cyber Monday, no.
Dude, y'all are missing out. Cyber Monday, lots of deals.
I was working.
I was going to buy an Xbox, but I didn't.
I did some Black Friday shopping with Duluth Trading Company.
Did you?
Shout out.
It's a good company.
We own some Duluth. We also own some Walmart, also own some Amazon. So some of these companies that we're mentioning.
Do y'all think Walmart, Target, and Amazon have better clothes than Duluth?
No.
Also own some Target.
No.
Also what?
Own some Target.
Oh, yeah. Here we go.
You own some Target?
Yeah. You do, personally?
No, for clients.
I didn't know we
I
still
own
owned
Target
any.
personally.
Oh, I didn't know we still owned any
Yep.
Target. Some hanger-ons at Target, apparently. So, yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things. I think the whole, luster of Black Friday is really diminished, even, the midnight shopping thing. It's like most places open at 6. Nobody really cares anymore. So I think that's probably culturally improvement.
That's sad, too, because that was super fun. I remember when the Xbox 360 came out, I remember getting up at, midnight or, super early, late Thanksgiving to get in line, and, that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
it's gone.
Yeah.
Sad.
So top products this year. Anybody got any ideas?
Top product.
Besides the Echo Dot.
I think the Apple Watch is going to do phenomenally well.
Is anybody here getting an Apple Watch for Christmas?
I'm ahead of the curve.
I think I'm going to get one.
I think I'm going to get one.
Ooh, this is big.
Wow, they're shopping for each other, folks. Headline that I know Ben's really excited about. Bloomberg came out with NBA rankings. Ben's excited because he's finally found something in which the Pac-12 is succeeding. And it's basically at patting their own backs because they rank themselves very highly in the alumni survey portion of this. So congratulations on all the humility coming out of schools like Stanford. It's about what you'd expect. Ben, talk to us.
Yeah, so quickly going through their rankings, Harvard takes the number 1 spot for the second year in a row. Wharton up 3 spot.
I studied there.
Up to number 2, MIT at number 3, Chicago number 4, and Stanford rounding out the top 5. But what Bloomberg did is they also went through on graded several categories. So they did an employer survey. Harvard won that. And interestingly, Stanford, which was in the top 5, employers only ranked Stanford number 20. So Stanford really got hit by the employers.
That could be slightly skewed, though, because if I'm correct or not wrong, Stanford is a
If you're correct, you aren't wrong. I will agree.
Stanford is a entrepreneurial tech startup MBA program. So, which is actually interesting because that means you came out and started your own company that ranked.
Yeah, I did all right.
This Stanford grad did not do well.
And then the other categories are alumni survey, and Stanford actually won that. And then you have the student survey, another Pac-12 school, UCLA, won that. Salary, Stanford won that. So if you want to make a big salary, go to Stanford. And for job placement, University of Washington.
But I have to
spot
admit,
for that. So they're getting people jobs.
I think
it makes
there's
sense, though, with Amazon being out there, probably like a ton of people working like in their like shipping facility.
and also like
Well, we forgot about those baristas too.
the job placement. The job placement's also like how difficult is it to like get these students jobs? And it's like Washington placed a couple of students in jobs, and I'm like, wow, they're doing a great job because these guys were hopeless.
Well, they have that high minimum wage out there, so they have to get an MBA to get hired.
Right. Well, and interestingly, if you look at Harvard, for job placement for Harvard, number 35.
I just don't believe that.
So you make a ton of money, everyone ranks you really highly, but you don't get jobs if you go to Harvard.
I just think Chicago Booth is way too low on there.
Well, the thing is, you know what they got killed by? The alumni graded it incredibly poorly, which is actually something that also happened at UW. Chicago was ranked, even though it was number 4 overall, they were ranked number 35 in terms of what the alumni had to say about it. And UW, Washington, was number 40. So alumni do not think highly of their school at UW, which
Just like
I thought
you.
was interesting. Nah.
So a lot of humility coming out of UW. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, very humble. The most humble. The most humble.
The most humble. Speaking of most humble, let's talk about college football, where UW has been humbled. Not even playing for a weak Pac-12 conference championship. Update on the standings for everybody that's new. We do weekly picks against the spread. We're doing pretty darn good. I just want to throw that out there. Everybody but Sam is above 500.
That's going to change.
Sam is 28-31. Ben and Krebs are 32-27 against the spread. I'm 33-26. Garrett is 34-25. Should be noted we got 6 games this week, which means it's literally anyone's week to win the whole thing. So if Sam won, got every game right, and Garrett got none, and we got none, you would tie with Garrett for the lead. So games we got this week: Southern Cal, a 3-point favorite against Stanford. Oklahoma, a 7-point favorite against TCU in the Big 12. Auburn, a 2.5-point favorite against Georgia in the SEC. Ohio State, a 6-point favorite against Wisconsin in the Big 10 championship. Clemson, favored by 9.5 against Miami in the ACC championship. And then UCF, a 7-point favorite against Memphis in the AAC. We just felt like we had to include that because UCF's electric.
It's a hard game to pick, too.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Jumping right in, Ben, talk to us about Southern Cal and Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, this one's not going to be close. It's going to be USC in a bloodbath.
Wow. Aggressive pick there.
Stanford's coming on strong, though.
No, Stanford's not that good. The thing you have to remember is, like, their biggest wins when they beat Washington, for instance, happened on a Friday night.
I would call that a big win, though.
This is a Friday night game.
Yeah, but it's not. It's gonna
Is
be.
it
It's gonna be at the Rose Bowl though.
Know how you know the Pac-12 is legit?
But
they play their conference championship when most people are watching high school football.
Stanford has no fan base. Like they literally have zero fan base.
It's interesting because their alumni rank
Alumni.
themselves really highly.
Well, yeah, they're all just going out trying to start companies that don't take off. So
Jerks.
I mean, all the games that they've won recently have been at home, and I think they're a much worse team not at home. So I took USC as well.
All right. I took Stanford.
Big.
I took Stanford because I thought y'all would all take USC.
There we go. Oklahoma, a 7-point.
Time out. Do we know what Garrett did first?
I don't.
No.
Okay. No. Oklahoma, a 7-point favorite against TCU. Does anybody want to jump in and talk about this one?
I'm a big Baker Mayfield guy.
Big Baker fan.
Probably a Heisman winner. I mean, I know Oklahoma beat TCU by 18. I want to say it was 38-20 early in the year. I think it's hard to do that twice in 1 year, beat the same team, especially by a big margin. I took TCU there. I don't know. I just don't know if they're going to cover 7.
All right.
I think it's going to be closer.
I got Oklahoma.
And I think you guys are going to take Oklahoma. So.
Ooh.
I think Baker's actually a little brittle, but I'm still going Oklahoma.
Brittle Baker.
I got TCU.
All right. Auburn, a 2.5-point favorite against Georgia. Kind of surprised the line is that small, just given what happened a couple weeks ago. I like Georgia in this. I think Kerryon Johnson for Auburn's pretty banged up. I think he's going to give it a go, but it's tough to play through a shoulder injury when you're constantly getting hit as a running back. So I think that's going to make a huge difference. I also think Georgia's made some changes on the offensive line, which will really change the outcome of the game. Plus, it's a neutral site, so I'm taking the Dogs.
I got Auburn.
I think Georgia's going to come in there with a chip on their shoulder, one of those games. I mean, Auburn's just won huge games in a row, Alabama, Georgia before that, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I think they're just going to come in with a good mentality. I got Georgia there.
Woo! So the way they do bond auctions is they do auction 2 years 1 week, then they do 10 years the next week, and then they do 30 years the next week. And typically what people say is like you don't have 3 really good auctions in a row. I think that's going to be the same for Auburn. You're not going to beat.
Way to make this about investing.
You're not going to beat UGA. You're not going to beat Alabama, and then get up for another game against UGA.
That'd be the run of like a lifetime if they could do that.
I mean,
It'd be like what they did in 2013, which is just like stupid.
That was stupid.
And they did that off a deflected Hail Mary and the kick 6.
yeah, it's not going to happen. I'm picking UGA in this one.
Woo, Dogs on top. Ohio State, 6-point favorite against undefeated Wisconsin Badgers. Wisconsin wins, they're definitely in the playoff. We should have mentioned that on the Auburn-Georgia game. The winner will almost assuredly be in the playoff. If Oklahoma wins, they'll probably be in the playoff. So Wisconsin's chance to punch a ticket. What you got, Krebs?
6-point underdogs, just no respect for Wisconsin. Nothing new to them. I think a big question mark is JT Barrett and like how healthy he's going to be. I think Haskins like showed up pretty well when he came in the second half against Michigan. Last time they played at the Big Ten Championship, Ohio State won 59-0.
People forget.
I think Wisconsin was favored in that game by like 3 or 4. I'm taking Wisconsin just out of pride. I can't pick against Wisconsin there.
All right, I'm taking.
I don't know if they're going to. I'm not confident in that pick.
I'm taking Ohio State just out of stubbornness, and knowing you'll take Wisconsin, and knowing I need to beat you. So
I again took Wisconsin because I thought you guys would not choose Wisconsin.
And
game theory on display right here.
I think you almost want JT Barrett to play. I think there's still a ton of question marks around his leadership of the team, and I think Wisconsin
There's no way that there's questions about his leadership. Maybe
I think
his playing ability.
He's an 18-year senior.
If he shows up, he's a great player. Like
Yeah.
you saw against Penn State, like he just showed out and like carried
Well,
that game.
because at the beginning of the season, they were talking about should JT Barrett be benched and all this, and I'm like, he's been there for 12 years. Like, how do
You don't bench a 12-year senior.
How do you bench him?
He's
Like,
been
I
there
think he's a good
forever.
player as well.
Yeah, he's been there for so long. It's ridiculous.
I think the most similar team in the Big Ten to Wisconsin is Iowa, and they smashed Ohio State. So might be a positive. Good.
There you go.
Good looks.
They did smash him. That's crazy. Still crazy that Ohio State lost by 31 points to Iowa, and they might get in the playoff. Clemson, a 9.5-point favorite against Miami. I think that's like kind of a big line. I'm super conflicted on this. I think it's going to actually be a pretty close game. I've got Clemson covering. I think Clemson's just so much more physical than Miami. The only way Miami can win this game, and they could, is if they get special teams and defensive touchdowns. They've had a lot of luck with that so far this year. So it's possible if they don't get that, I think this is probably like a 7-point game going into the fourth quarter, and Clemson might, pull it out by 10 or 14. But I got Clemson covering.
I took Miami because I thought y'all would take Clemson.
I just don't think Clemson's a good football team. I don't, especially like Miami's a pretty solid football team. I don't know how the line's that big myself. I mean, Clemson lost to Syracuse.
Miami lost this past weekend. We watched
to Notre Dame. Or
No,
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Really different.
By 10.
Don't forget.
I think it was just a super undisciplined Miami team getting really cocky and be like, "Oh, yo, we're going to."
Many people who have observed Mark Richt for a long time.
I mean, you've seen that chain, right?
Many people who have observed Mark Richt for a long time are saying that his teams are always super undisciplined.
I'm taking Miami. I was hoping you guys would take Clemson too, so that worked out.
There you go.
I think Miami got way too much credit for beating Notre Dame. I mean,
they smashed Notre Dame though.
Yeah, but who else beat Notre Dame? Stanford,
Georgia.
and Georgia. So I mean, come on.
What a comparison.
No, but Stanford
Who else
just
did Stanford beat?
Stanford destroyed Notre Dame.
Washington?
Miami is overrated.
I don't disagree.
Dabo's gonna have Clemson ready for this one. There's no way they lose it, and they cover the spread easily.
Right.
Easily.
Probably going to be the most fun game of the day, in all seriousness, is going to be Central Florida and Memphis. I want to pull for my Memphis Tigers, but Central Florida beat them by like 37 points earlier in the year. Memphis's quarterback's going to probably throw 6 touchdowns and 3 picks, and that's going to be the difference. And I think Central Florida's going to cover.
In what way? Is it like in a good way?
Picks. The picks are going to be the difference. Central Florida's going to cover. Undefeated season for Scott Frost, and he's going to take the Nebraska job. I got Central Florida.
Took
by
Memphis.
7. Boom.
I mean, this game's probably going to be like 70 to 60.
It's going to be awesome. The over-under's got to be at least 100.
Yeah, I took Memphis. Just kind of rolling dice.
Yeah, it's gonna be Memphis. I mean, it's easy.
changing.
Memphis.
I'm
You
changing.
don't.
You
You don't have undefeated seasons. You just don't. I mean, when was the last undefeated season?
Wisconsin's going to do it.
They're not gonna do it. I mean, they beat Ohio State and then they go and play Auburn.
Yeah.
Florida
Georgia.
State did it
Easy
a couple
win.
years ago.
The dream scenario for Georgia fans is that you beat Auburn and then somehow you draw Wisconsin in the semifinal.
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, that won't happen because the stars will never align so beautifully.
Well, just one more thing on Memphis. The only game they lost was to UCF, like you said earlier, and UCF beat South Florida pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, just last week, and Memphis didn't play them. So I mean, that's like the best. I think UCF's the easy pick, like the smart pick, but I can't play smart right now. You know.
There you go.
I
You gotta be
honestly
aggressive.
think y'all are wildly out of your mind choosing Memphis.
This was it's probably why I'm wrong, but that was the easiest of the picks for me to make.
I thought 100%. I was like, I'm generating alpha choosing Memphis because not a single one of these clowns would choose Memphis.
So there we go. Big time picks. Stay tuned. We'll reveal the champion next week. Ben can't win because he's not in the pool, but Sam, Krebs, Garrett, me, we're all in for $100. We have a tiebreaker in place, which I guess we'll get to if we have to get to it. But yeah, big things ahead. Thanks for being here. Talk to you later.
Hi, I'm Ben Nye. Today we're talking about weather and how that affects stock prices, or whether or not weather actually does affect stock prices and how that all works out. Now, a lot of times people talk about how hurricanes affect stock prices, and that's true. It can affect insurance companies, and we talked about that a little bit when we were talking about the hurricanes that hit Texas and Florida earlier in the year. We can also talk about how wet weather can affect things like mining operations, especially in Canada, and the flooding associated with that. But today I wanted to talk a little bit about winter weather and how that actually can affect stock prices. So there are a couple things you have to think about when you're talking about weather, and this is what I want to touch on today. The first is how weather affects inflation and how it affects energy prices. And the second is how weather affects things like retail sales and people actually going out to stores and buying stuff. And the corollary to that, of course, is now that if you're buying online, are people actually able to deliver to you or not? So let's talk a little bit about energy prices and inflation. When the weather is very cold, especially like when it's colder than normal, because you always compare these things to the previous year. If it's colder than the previous year, then you probably use more electricity because you're heating things. So the price for heating oil goes up, which can have an impact on oil prices. Those things rise because the demand is higher, then the price of oil and heating oil rises. This is good for things like refineries who make the spread on products like heating oil when they crack it down from just oil to heating oil and things like gasoline and aircraft fuel. And it's also good for the producers of those commodities. So things like your Shell Oil Company or ExxonMobil, companies that actually produce the goods that people are using more of, the commodities that people are using more of when it gets cold. Now, you can argue whether or not this should have an impact because weather is, of course, transitory. It's not like one cold weather day necessarily means that the next 6 years are going to be cold, and therefore the next 6 years of profits for these companies are going to be exceedingly high. But stocks do respond to this because commodity prices respond to this. Companies can have extremely good quarters if they just have a week of very, very good sales, because a week is almost 10% of a company's quarter. So when weather gets very cold, especially across the entire United States, you got to be on the lookout for what these energy stocks are doing. You may want to sell them if you own them, and if you think that the weather is actually going to deteriorate and get even colder, you might want to buy someone as a trade. That's not the game I play, but people do play that game. Now, the second thing when we're talking about weather is retail sales. And retail sales, I like to call the weather, has an impact in terms of a Goldilocks effect. So if you don't want the weather to be too warm, because then people will say, no, it's not Christmas time. Yeah, I don't need to be going to the store. I don't need to be getting clothes for the kids, gifts for the kids, because there's no snow on the ground. The Christmas movies just don't have that same ring to it when it's 65 degrees out like it is today. And it doesn't want it to be too cold, because if it's too cold, then all of a sudden people don't want to go out. They can't get out. When there are 3 feet of snow on the ground, you're stuck indoors and there's no way to get out. And sometimes there's no way to get out for 3 to 4 days. Or if you're in Atlanta, there's no way to get out for 2 weeks because there are still cars parked on the road for 2 weeks after an inch of snow falls. So you want to be just in that middle zone. You want it to have that wintry weather. You want to have that wintry feel. But you also want it to have enough of a warm or enough pleasant weather so that you can actually go out and buy stuff. So for retailers, this is what they look at. They want to have that happy medium. If a retailer were to report earnings, say, tomorrow, and they just focus on Atlanta, they say, well, maybe these retail sales are not actually doing so well this year, but that's because we haven't had the cold weather hit yet. You get that cold weather hit, especially that 3 to 4 weeks prior to Christmas time, and retail sales could have a really good time of it. Now, that could be changing a little, and the reason it could be changing is because such a greater proportion of sales are being done online now. And we talked a little bit about this in the Young Bucks, What the Bucks segment earlier today. When you can sit on the couch and order things, it's a lot different than having to go out to the store, go out to the mall, brave the crowds, and brave the snow. Now you can just sit on your couch, and with the click of a button, you can actually buy something. So things may be changing a little bit, but you still don't have that sense of really wanting to buy into the Christmas season and to the holiday gift-giving season until you actually see that cold weather hit. So keep an eye on the weather over the next few weeks. That could move stocks, and that could move your portfolio. Thanks. Hi, Ben Nye here. I'm going to talk a little bit today as a public service announcement. Google Finance is being overhauled. Google portfolios are being redone. So if you have your stock saved in Google portfolios, if this is where you track your stocks, you're going to have to change that. It's a little bit disheartening for us because this is what we use to track our aggregate exposure. It's easy, it's intuitive, it's perhaps a little bit Web 1.0 or maybe Web 2.0. And Google's trying to redesign this because people are getting more interested in finance now, and they need something that's a little bit newer. But for people who are used to the legacy portfolio at Google, in Google Finance, there's going to be some big changes going on. So be aware of that. And just more broadly, because this is the call out segment, we want to call out just the plethora of web firms who have finance products that consistently are bad. I mean, Google, for instance, has these really powerful algorithms they're creating. Some fantastic stuff. They're doing artificial intelligence, they're doing machine learning, they're doing self-driving vehicles, and they can't make a Google finance product that is that competitive or intuitive. And Yahoo's just gone from a finance product that was relatively strong to a finance product that just continues to get worse and worse and worse and worse. So quick call out of these web firms who just don't get it on the finance side, because we need another avenue other than a Market Watch or a Bloomberg. So I fully endorse the change. I wish that it was a little bit more backwards compatible with the Google portfolio, so be aware of that. But, we do need something better. Thanks.
Tusk Media is a subsidiary of Narwhal Capital Management. Ratings and reviews of Tusk Media content are not to be construed as endorsements of opinions, analysis, or services offered by Tusk or its parent company. The opinions and predictions shared here are professional beliefs at the time of publication. We are not under duress from any of the corporate entities mentioned. This is not a solicitation to take any particular action. Although we are investment advisors, this information should not be considered investment, legal, or tax advice. We strive to be as impartial, insightful, and accurate as possible. We base our opinions, analysis, and calculations on information we believe to be reliable, but we cannot guarantee its accuracy. We can, however, guarantee that our opinions will sometimes be flat out wrong due to a variety of factors. Employees and clients of Narwhal Capital Management may or may not hold positions in the securities detailed and may or may not hold these positions in the future. A full list of all securities purchased, sold, or held during the 12 months preceding the date of this publication can be provided upon request. Unless otherwise noted, all data accessed via MarketWatch or the Bloomberg terminal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. A copy of Narwhal's Form ADV is available at the SEC's website, www.advisorinfo.sec.gov, or from Narwhal upon written request.